Who is my neighbor? Luke 10 verse 29. That's a question that might make you think twice about who deserves your kindness. This story takes place during a time when Jewish religious leaders had strict rules about how they should interact with people. The Pharisees, known for their adherence to these laws, believed that certain groups were unclean and shouldn't be spoken to, let alone helped. A traveler is attacked on the road, left wounded and helpless. This situation tests the assumptions of who deserves care and compassion. The traveling man found himself lost, not just geographically, but in a sense of dread that clung to him like a shroud. His once vibrant clothes were tattered, his footsteps heavy with exhaustion. He'd been wandering for days, guided only by a vague hope that somewhere ahead lay sanctuary. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, thirst parched his throat, and the sun beat down mercilessly. He longed for the comfort of shelter, for a friendly face, for a kind word, anything to break through the suffocating loneliness that threatened to consume him. For he who would save his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. This verse echoed in his mind, offering no solace, only a deepening sense of despair. He stumbled onward, unsure if he was moving toward salvation or deeper into the abyss. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every rustle of leaves a sign of danger lurking nearby. He clung to the meager hope that somewhere, beyond this desolation, there existed kindness and compassion. But for now, all he felt was the gnawing fear of an impending storm, both literal and metaphorical. The sky, once a canvas of vibrant blue, had darkened into a menacing gray, mirroring the turmoil within his soul. He knew he couldn't go on like this, that he needed to find refuge before darkness swallowed him whole. From his lofty perch overlooking the city, the priest observed the suffering unfolding below. He saw hunger etched on weary faces, desperation in their hollow eyes. He heard their cries, pleas for help swallowed by the indifference of the bustling crowds. Yet, he remained distant, a detached observer rather than an active participant in their plight. And he that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin. These words, though spoken long ago, echoed in his mind, their weight settling heavily upon his soul. He justified his inaction with piety, convincing himself that true compassion lay not in temporary relief but in fervent prayer. He retreated further into the sanctuary of his own beliefs, finding solace in rituals and pronouncements rather than genuine human connection. The priest had become a monument to self-preservation, a shepherd who turned away from his flock when they most needed him. The Levite hurried along the road, his mind preoccupied with his own affairs. He saw the injured man lying helpless by the roadside, a victim of violence and left for dead. Yet, he chose to avert his gaze, as if unaware of the suffering unfolding before him. His heart remained untouched, unmoved by the desperate pleas that might have escaped the wounded man's lips. Perhaps he rationalized his inaction, convincing himself it was not his responsibility to intervene in such a chaotic world. Or maybe, deep down, he simply lacked the courage to confront the grim reality of human cruelty. He continued on his way, leading the victim to his fate, a silent testament to indifference in the face of pain. The Samaritan, a man often viewed with suspicion and scorn by his own people, saw the injured traveler lying helpless by the roadside. He wasn't consumed by indifference or driven by self-preservation as others had been. Instead, compassion stirred within him, urging him to action. Without hesitation, he approached the wounded man, carefully assessing his injuries. His heart ached at the sight of the man's suffering. He knew firsthand the pain of hardship and isolation, and he couldn't bear to leave another in such desperate need. With gentle hands, he tended to the injured traveler, binding his wounds and offering him water to quench his thirst. He treated him with dignity and respect, recognizing his inherent worth as a human being, regardless of his circumstances or background. His actions were fueled not by obligation or reward, but by genuine empathy and a desire to alleviate suffering. He understood that every life held value and deserved compassion, even in the face of hostility and prejudice. The Samaritan didn't simply tend to the wounds. He treated them with a level of care and dedication that spoke volumes about his character. He wasn't driven by fleeting emotions or the need for recognition. Instead, his actions were born from a deep well of compassion and a sincere desire to alleviate suffering. He knew this man needed more than just physical healing. He needed kindness, respect, and someone who would truly see him as a human being worthy of care. The Samaritan's dedication extended far beyond the immediate needs of the moment. He wasn't satisfied with merely patching up the wounds. He wanted to ensure the traveler's well-being. He took the time to understand his condition, to offer him comfort, and to make sure he was on a path to recovery. This commitment wasn't a burden for him. It was an expression of his empathy and a testament to his belief that every life held value. His act of healing wasn't just about mending broken bones or treating wounds. It was about restoring dignity, offering hope, and demonstrating the transformative power of compassion in a world often marred by indifference and hostility. The Samaritan didn't just stop at treating the immediate wounds. He understood that true healing went far beyond the physical. He recognized this man needed nourishment, shelter, and someone to look after him until he was strong enough to journey on his own. He led the injured traveler to an inn, a place of rest and refuge. This wasn't simply a choice based on convenience. It spoke volumes about the Samaritan's compassion and understanding of human needs. He knew that in this safe haven, the man could heal properly, away from the dangers of the road and the uncertainties of life. He didn't leave him there vulnerable and alone. The Samaritan ensured the innkeeper would care for him, making arrangements to provide food, water, and a comfortable place to rest. This wasn't just about basic needs. It was about creating a supportive environment where the man could feel safe, cared for, and valued. He didn't simply offer help, he made a commitment. The Samaritan paid for the innkeeper's care, guaranteeing that the traveler would receive the attention and support he needed until he was well enough to continue his journey. This wasn't just an act of charity. It was a testament to the Samaritan's belief in the inherent worth of every individual and his willingness to go above and beyond to ensure their well-being. He knew that true healing took time, and he was willing to invest in this man's recovery, offering not only physical care but also the gift of human kindness and compassion. The Samaritan didn't simply vanish after ensuring the man's immediate care. He understood that true healing encompassed a much broader spectrum, a holistic restoration of well-being. The injured traveler wouldn't be able to just pick up where he left off without proper time and support to fully recover. He made sure the innkeeper was given clear instructions about the man's needs, not just for physical comfort, but also for emotional support. He likely spoke words of encouragement, reminding the man that he wasn't alone in this and would be well taken care of until he could stand on his own 2 feet again. Knowing full well that the journey ahead wouldn't be easy, the Samaritan likely provided additional resources beyond the innkeeper's care. He might have given the traveler money to cover future expenses, knowing that a wounded person's needs extend far beyond shelter and food. This wasn't just about providing for the immediate moment. It was about setting the man up for success on his journey back to health and wholeness. He didn't simply walk away and leave things to chance. The Samaritan took responsibility for the man's well-being, ensuring he had everything he needed to not only survive but truly thrive. This act of dedication spoke volumes about the depth of his compassion and commitment to seeing this individual restored to full health and well-being. People often think of neighbor as someone who lives close by, shares their background, or belongs to the same social group. It's easy to draw lines and define who is in and who is out, but Jesus challenged that narrow view completely. He wanted people to understand that love knows no boundaries. It transcends those artificial divisions we create. Think about it. Wouldn't you want someone to help you if you were in need, regardless of who they were? It's a basic human instinct to care for one another, to offer a helping hand when someone is struggling. Jesus took that idea and expanded it, urging his followers to extend their compassion beyond the familiar, the comfortable, even those they might perceive as different or other. This radical message wasn't just about being nice. It was about embracing the very core of what it means to be human, to recognize our shared vulnerability, our interconnectedness. He showed us that love isn't a feeling reserved for those we like or agree with, but a responsibility we have towards every single person, regardless of their background, beliefs, or circumstances. The world can feel divided, people often living in their own little bubbles, separated by walls of prejudice and misunderstanding. Jesus calls us to tear down those walls, to see beyond the superficial differences and recognize the inherent worth of every human being. To truly be a neighbor means to love unconditionally, to extend grace and compassion without judgment or expectation.